Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning to you out there online. If you don't know me, my name's Ross. I'm the pastor of Heaven Earth Church. We're going to get going in just a couple minutes. We'll give folks a couple more minutes to join us in person and online. So Angie brought some goodies for us today. We got some donuts. What else is back there, Angie? Ooh, we got some almond poppy seed muffins. If you're not here in person, you're missing out. We have a really luxurious item now in the back. We're upgrading as a church. We have a Keurig. Oh my gosh. What are we going to do with ourselves? Next is a private jet for me. Seriously, come on, pony up, people. I got to preach this gospel to the nations, as Jesse Duplantis awkwardly said. Hey, it's good to have you with us. That is a way of me saying thank you, because I found out that a couple people pooled together some money to get me and my family a Christmas gift. And people did. I was so excited about it. You can hear it. So I got a Keurig, and I keep it here now. And like throughout the week, if I want a cup of coffee, I can go back and get it. Delith, my former assistant, who ended her stint with us, who has a new amazing job. We're so excited for Delith as she's out there. She was so wonderful for our church. She can testify that one day I took grounds from the freezer and had a filter and had it suspended over a mug and was trying to do my own pour over. It was a disaster. We have a Keurig, and it's for you too. So we're glad that you're with us. Hey, Maureen, could you log on Facebook at some point and pass along? Thank you. Maureen's going to be passing comments along. I would love to hear from you online and in person. Did you do anything fun in the snow? Anything fun? Jason, what'd you do? Jason was the only adult with teenagers sledding at Freedom Springs. Yeah. What else? Huh? Anybody do anything fun? No? Man, we're not a very exciting... You shoveled it. Yeah, that's not exciting. Angie, where was my call? I would have loved to do that. Angie's son took an ATV and they got skis behind it and went around in the snow. I came here yesterday. We got the parking lot plowed. I came to make sure the sidewalk and stairs were cool. They were not cool, because I, Home Alone style, put one foot on the stair and whoop! Luckily didn't bust my head. So yeah. Anybody else? Anything online? Anybody do anything? Delith like shoveling. Actually, I can testify to that. It's very satisfying to shovel your driveway for me. Kara disagrees. Yeah. Well, there's still time. Jason can tell you all the ropes about Freedom Springs. He can tell you where the best sledding spots are. So if you want to go sledding today, it's not too late. Well, welcome again. It's good to be here. Glad that you're here in person and online. My name is Ross again. If you missed that, I'm the pastor of Heaven Earth. And there's a saying, there's a part we're in a series called Jesus and the 12 Steps. And there's a part in the big book that I've quoted, I think, every week now. I think it's in We Agnostics. Either God is nothing or God is everything. Yeah, all right. Well, there's a section in the book that's talking about how people who came into the program struggled perhaps with belief. Especially the first couple steps of believing in this power greater than ourselves and turning over your life your life and will over to the care of this power that's greater than yourself. And there's a section in the big book called We Agnostics, and it's like talking about people who struggled. They loved logic, and they still do. But the logic that turned the corner for some people was this idea that either God is nothing or God is everything. Like either there is a creator from whom we got this mystery of winter that everyone loves here, I know it, and snow and sunrises and all that is life, or it just sort of happened. We come together Sundays with different levels of belief, right? We're not all in the same place, with different feelings. Some people are coming in here today with like crippling doubt, online and in person. You're not sure what you believe. Some people feel like, man, their belief is at 100% right now. Whatever the case, we come together as a community on Sundays in this spiritual practice of worship together to seek the truth that God is everything and to grow in that. Because I happen to believe that God is everything, and I'm inviting you to explore that with me today as well. So I want to invite my sister up. We're going to do a song to just guide your reflections. It's called New Wine. If you want to look up the lyrics online, follow along and sing some of it with us. It's called New Wine. If you want to look up the lyrics on your phone, like I said, or at home. We've been doing this. Joanna suggested this song, and I thought it was a good suggestion. I'll let her say more about that in a minute as I drop the piece of paper. But there's a part where Jesus in the Bible, there are some people criticizing Jesus and his followers. Like, why don't you do some of the things our religious folks have been doing? And he says, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Can't put it, because if you put new wine into old wineskins, as the wine ferments and the gases are released, it expands the wineskin and bursts it. So you lose the wine and you lose the wineskin. New wine goes into new wineskins. So may the Holy Spirit prepare us, these vessels, to receive new wine today. Anything else you want to add, sister?
Just that we could all focus every day on being new and keeping our focus on Jesus, to not go back to our old ways. This song spoke to me a few years back. I was in Ohio in a new place, moving with my husband and trying to find a new church family. And I was going by myself because my husband worked so much at that time. And I went into this church. The song is by Hillsong Worship. And I went into this church, and I really enjoyed the service. I was so thankful because I was nervous. I was nervous about it. And I left the church and I was on my way home, and I heard this song on the radio, and it really spoke to me because everything was so new, but that I was getting older and I needed every day to keep my focus on Jesus and be new in my choices and new in everything that I do. And it wasn't going to be necessarily easy, but it was something that I was just going to have to keep extreme focus on. And even when I went back to my old ways, to just get right back up there and be new again through Jesus Christ. So hope you like it. In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hand. Lord, I trust you, I don't need to understand. Make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crushing, in the pressing, You are making new wine. And in the soil I now surrender. You are breaking new ground. You are breaking new ground. So make me a vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. Oh God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power. There is new freedom. Kingdom is here. Lay down my old flames to carry your new fire today. So make me your vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. Yes, God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me.
Let's say a prayer together. God, we come here as your people. We come here as human beings. You created people with free choice. You created us that way because you love relationship. You don't want to force us into relationship. You created us with desire in hopes that we would choose you. You also know evil's in the equation. The world isn't as it should be. And it's so easy for us to hold on to the old wineskins, to be half in and half out and say, yeah, give me the new life. And we try to pour the new wine into the old wineskins. That's who we are. But we come here today. We seek your spirit every day to seek your help. Because you have the power to restore us. You have the power to help us take a new wineskin up, to receive new wine. Help us to do that. In the name of Jesus, amen. All right, you know the drill. We got to take a break because we got to set up. I'm telling you, we got an awesome conversation today. A great story. Courtney's going to join me up here on the couch. So this is your chance. If you didn't get donuts, goodies, coffee back there, there's also hot chocolate. So yeah, go get some of that, and we'll be back with you in just a minute to have this conversation. All right, Courtney, come on up. Hey, as Courtney comes up, can you give a round of applause to Courtney? I'm going to sit right there. I'm going to open this up here, Courtney, so it'll be just a second. So every week, as you know, in this series, Jesus in the 12 Steps, we're weaving in wisdom from Alcoholics Anonymous and the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous, but also the experience, strength, and hope of people who are in recovery, have worked the program. But I also, before we start, I want to bring something that actually Caleb brought up last week, and I was really happy that he did. And having folks share their stories in a way, we're sort of violating one of the important principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is anonymity, which I've come to learn isn't about like, I'm embarrassed that I had addiction, but the anonymity is linked up with humility. And literally, humility has kept some of our friends in recovery alive. It has saved their life. And so, to be honest, by having folks share their stories, we're taking a bit of a risk in violating those principles. But as Courtney and I spoke about on the phone, she's here today. Caleb was sharing, John shared, and others will share as a witness to the grace of God, as a powerful witness to the grace of God. And so, Courtney, where I want to start with you, Courtney was the first person from whom I heard the phrase, the gift of desperation. I'll ask you again, who thinks desperation is a gift? Huh? Oh, okay. Thanks. Perfect. Oh, wait, it might be tangled up. Let's get untangled. Oh, no, there we go. Jason did it. Perfect. We got it. Thanks, Jason. Teamwork. So Courtney was the first person from whom I heard the phrase, the gift of desperation. Courtney, you know a little bit about desperation. So would you share some of that with us?
Yeah. So I can. Yeah. You don't want to hold it for me the whole time? Okay. Okay. So the gift of desperation, right? When we are in the literature, it says it's a pitfall, the pitfall of incomprehensible demoralization, right? And so that was kind of a lot for me to take in. And so desperation for me is like the searching hope, right? Seeking. And so I was in active addiction for 8 years. Sorry, I get a little nervous. This is my story. So I woke up one morning and after 8 long years of active alcoholism, I just felt really off, like I had in the past, but kind of like, like we do, push it to the wayside, right? And I went to the emergency room. I drove myself there, and I was lifelined immediately to IU West Downtown Hospital. Every organ in my body was shutting down. I was put on life support. I was on life support for 8 days. I was in the hospital for a month and a half. I don't remember much about being on life support, but I do remember there was a moment where I got to watch my life through like a third party, right? And I was with someone whom I couldn't see, but I was watching myself, and I was just really overcome with guilt and just watching the selfishness and the self-centeredness that I had been in my whole life, the last 8 years of it. And I just pleaded for a second chance, that this wasn't what I was put here for, that this wasn't my earthly purpose, and that if I was given a second chance, I would fulfill my earthly purpose. And I woke up. And it was a fight, and it's continued, I've continued to fight. I had to relearn and regain strength to walk. I was told I would never be able to work again. I now work at a treatment center, sharing this message and giving hope to women that are currently struggling in addiction. So, that brought me to my gift of desperation, which is hope. Hope that there is something bigger than myself out there. only reason I'm here today is by the grace of God. I break my anonymity today because I think it aligns in my personal mission, which is sharing this message to people that there is hope and there is, that power out there. God is real. So yeah, that's my gift of desperation.
I sort of promised Courtney I would hold the microphone for, and I broke my promise because I realized I was going to be holding it for potentially a fairly long time. So I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Hope you'll forgive me. Praise be to God, right? This is a witness to God's grace. This isn't about, as Caleb said, like, you're not a hero. I'm not a hero. You're not a hero. We're just a vessel, as the song talks about. And so we thank you for being here today. All right, so fast forward. You didn't hear it, but that was kind of a journey of like from step 1, 2, 3, like, wow, I'm powerless. This is unmanageable. There's a power greater than myself who can restore me to sanity. I have to turn my life and will over to the care. And then last week we talked about steps 4 and 5. Today we're talking about steps 6 and 7. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. Can I put you on the spot? What are steps 6 and 7?
Okay, so 6 is we were entirely ready.
To have God remove. I actually have them written down. I forgot I have them written down. Praise be to God. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And 7, we humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. As I've studied this, I feel like these are the steps that people could overlook. And in the big book, they get like a paragraph a piece. But you shared a book with me. I read some of that. I dug into the 12 and 12 steps, 12 traditions. And these steps are like, they're huge. They're vital. So tell us why.
Well, first it says like, the big book only does give these steps. Oh, you want me to hold it again? No, it's kind of awkward. Yeah. Okay. It gives it 2 paragraphs, but it's like these steps, right? They say in step 6 and the 12 and 12 that this step separates the men from the boys, right? And so it's really about steps 4 and 5 prepared us to really look internally and change shift our perception, right? And put like where was I in all of this? Instead of blaming or playing a victim, it's really about, where was I in that? And so with step 6 and 7, it's taking that look at yourself and holding yourself accountable and really being entirely willing, right, to give up some of those defects, because those defects have been with us for a long time and have worked for us. So willingness is the key, I think. And 6 and 7 are like the meat and potatoes of the program, I think. But it's just my opinion.
You want me to take it now? Yeah. Did you want to do the sermon today? No. Yeah. Okay. I'm just kidding. That's what struck me in the literature. A big thing was these defects have worked for us. And they list these reasons like why we don't want to, why we're not ready, why we're not willing, is because our defects work for us up to a point. So the last thing I want to talk to you about was entirely ready for God to remove all these defects of character, really all?
So entirely ready to move all these defects. I think all the defects that lead us away from the light of the Spirit, right? That lead us away from being useful, that lead us away from our purpose, which is to share this message, right, of hope. So I don't necessarily, it's progress, not perfection, right? I don't think that you can get rid of all of your defects. We are human after all. But we do and we have to offer ourselves some grace, just like grace was given to us. So I think it's going to be a work in progress. I don't think we'll ever fully get rid of all of our defects, right? But we can humbly ask to get rid of the ones that lead us away from the Spirit.
There are about 40 more questions I want to ask you, but I guess that has to conclude our time. Give Courtney a round of applause. She really, unless there's anything else you want to share, you're good for today. All right, thanks. I'm thankful that Courtney, and Caleb and John, as they kind of talked about, broke their anonymity and put their humility perhaps at risk to share their story, their experience, strength, and hope. What we want to do now is just, as we've been doing, is lots of cords up here. Paper's falling. Yes, stay there. Nice. What we want to do is overlay a story from the life of Jesus, kind of weave it together with what Courtney's just shared, specifically along the lines of this idea of readiness. One of the things that struck me about that keeps striking me as I read the big book, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, that keeps challenging my. All right. What keeps challenging my ego is like this idea that, man, I always think I'm ready. I think I've been willing. And then I discover this new depth and realize how, I'm really still holding on to quite a bit, still clinging to a lot of the things that have worked for me, defects that have served me well in survival mode, but not necessarily in thriving mode with Jesus. So we're going to be in Luke chapter 7, verses 36 to 50. Luke chapter 7, 36 through 50. I love this story. But before we do that, I want to ask you, as I hope we have a conversation. Remember, if you want to interrupt me at any time and have a comment or question, do it. You can raise your hand or just say, Ross, be quiet, I have a question. Go for it. But I want to ask you, those two steps say, step 6 of the program says that we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7 says we humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Courtney said something to me that I'll bring up now as she gets a big bite of muffin. She thought maybe I was going to have her talk. These steps, there's a reason they're steps and they work in order. If you haven't done steps 4 and 5, if you haven't made a fearless and searching inventory of your life, like really dug into, like, whom do I resent? At whom am I angry? What's my fear? If you haven't done this inventory and you haven't faced up with your defects or the things, think of defect in terms of like your instincts that have been warped. Instincts are good and God-given, but over time, we live in the world. Fear creeps up in us. Fear mixes with our instincts. They get warped. They help us to survive, right? Until they don't. Jesus comes to break the cycle and restore us into the freedom for which we were made and destined. But if you're not facing up with your defects, if you're not being, the program talks about, it's a program that requires rigorous honesty. Following Jesus requires rigorous honesty. It doesn't require perfection. It requires rigorous honesty. If you haven't practiced rigorous honesty, it's going to be hard for you to know, like, man, what's dominating? Where's my fear? But let's take for granted. Let's say hypothetically you've done a searching and fearless inventory. What keeps you from being ready to have God remove your defects of character? What keeps you from being ready? Or to put it in the language of step 7, what keeps you from humbly asking God to remove your shortcomings? I'll give you a second to think about it. Fear of what that will entail. So the program talks all about that, how fear will keep us kind of in, old patterns of behavior, thinking and feeling. Fear. What keeps you from being ready to have God entirely remove defects of character or to help shape you, restore you, mold you? Yeah. Yeah, we talked about this last week. That's exactly right, Maureen. I remember I asked you, how well do you think you know yourself? If you follow Jesus and you really follow him, you're going to get to know you really well over the years, and you're going to have to say out loud at some point. If you want, Jesus asks a guy one time who's not been well for 38 years, he says, hey, do you want to be made well? If we want to be made well with Christ, we're going to have to be honest about what those defects are if they're going to be removed. What keeps you from being ready? Denial, yeah. A belief that it's just who I am. Humility, is that, I wonder if that person's saying a lack of humility, or maybe they can share a little more about that. I'll add on for me. It's what Courtney said. My defects work for me. They've kept me alive. From the trauma I've had in the past, my defects help me to live. My false self has served me really well. It helped me to stay alive until 2011, when I had a breakdown and realized it wasn't serving me well. And that was the beginning of my sort of restoration, I guess. And I'm still living in it. I'll ask you one more time. Anybody else? Caleb said selfishness. I know the book talks a lot about self-centeredness being kind of the big thing that keeps us stuck. Caleb said selfishness. His defects were serving him, but maybe not serving God and others, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's this phrase, Caleb? Either humble yourself or he will. Something like that, right? Yeah, sometimes if we open our lives up, before I had my sort of conversion moment in 2011, I'd been in the habit of praying this phrase from Psalm 51, Lord, create in me a new heart, renew a steadfast spirit within me. I kept praying that every day, and God was like, oh, okay, let's go. Woo! A lot of times, myself, when I look in the mirror, so many people I hear from are so frustrated in their faith and their relationship with God. Why isn't God doing this? Why isn't God doing that? But another phrase that I'm learning from this program is, God could and would if he were sought. God could and would if he were sought. God isn't going to force this transformation on you. That wouldn't be relationship. Sometimes what we want God to do would break the rules of genuine relationship. It's nothing we would ever do in our own relationships. I couldn't and I wouldn't force my sister to live a certain way I want her to live. That wouldn't be relationship. That wouldn't be honoring her true self. But we exist in a friendship where we try to hear each other, listen to each other, offer advice, feedback, and we grow, right? All right, let's hear this story. Luke 7:36 through 40. Let's read it together. What do you say? Luke is just one account of Jesus' life. If you're online or you're in the room, you're like, Ross, I don't know about the Bible. I haven't read much of it. I don't know what's going on with it. It's a scary book. It is. It's like a library of books that spans hundreds of years. It's scary and wonderful. So we're in one account of Jesus' life called the Gospel of Luke, or the Good News according to Luke. So we're in chapter 7. You can look this up online. You can download the YouVersion app. Verse 36, when one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Break in the action. Here's the good news today. For you, for this woman, for every human being that has lived, is living, or will live, it is precisely because Jesus knows who she is why he invites her and let her do that. Jesus knows her, knows what has been going on in her life, and it is precisely for that reason that he welcomes her. The Pharisee says, man, if he only knew, he does. And that's why he is the way he is. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. If Jesus says, Ross, I have something to tell you, it's probably not going to be like an affirmation word. Probably going to be a little bit of a rebuke. Caleb, I have something to tell you. Alicia, I got something to tell you. Probably not going to be like, I'm just so proud of you. Probably going to be, hey, you're not seeing things quite right. And that too is good from the Lord. Simon, I have something to tell me. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. A denarii, that's really the plural. That was 1 day's wage. It was kind of the wage at their time. If you worked 2 days, you got 2 denarii. One person owed this lender 500 denarii, or 500 days of wages. Another owed him 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Can you say both? Can you say both? It's so easy to read this story, and I've heard so many stories or interpretations of this that gloss over the fact that the lender forgave both. It's huge in this story. We forget that because of what Jesus says next. He says, now, which of them will love him more, love the lender more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. Jesus says, you judged correctly. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet. A minimum sign of hospitality. That was a minimum sign of hospitality, putting out water for someone to wash their feet in that world. You didn't give me water to wash my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss of a greeting, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins Her many sins have been forgiven as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Here's the harsh news. If you can't practice rigorous honesty with God, your perception of forgiveness will be small. If you cannot look God in the face and trust that God loves you and say, God, here it all is. If you can't do that with God, another, and yourself, as step 5 talks about, if you can't practice that rigorous honesty, your perception of forgiveness is going to be very small. Right? The other guests began to say among themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Your faith has saved you. Go in peace. All right, you're up. What strikes you in that story? What stands out? A word, a phrase, a moment, a question that you have as you hear these words. I'll hang up and listen. For Joanna, it's the judgment that's on the surface, that there's always a story. Is that kind of what you're saying? Somebody always has a story. Yeah. We often see people for how far they have not come rather than for how far they have come. We make assumptions, yeah. What else? What stands out to you in the story? Anybody online, Maureen? The woman's humility, yeah. This woman's practicing steps 6 and 7. This is an entire readiness right here. This is a humble, asking. Remove it all. And what Jesus' response to her is your love, the love that's growing in your heart, your faith that's growing, the trust that's growing in your heart, that brought you here. It's what's saving you, and it's what will keep you going. Yeah. What else sticks out to you? I'll share a few things in a minute, but I hope to just leave this story with you today. Alicia. Yeah. Yeah. So Alicia was sharing, reaching back to last week, we acknowledge that many of us in the room, everybody who's lived on earth has experienced trauma. People have done things to them, right? But Caleb talked about how, and Alicia pulled that forward, how if we can't forgive, the big book talks about even seeing the people who maybe did things to us as spiritually sick, like we were. If we can't give out grace, our ability to receive it will be limited, right? And I find that to be true. Sometimes this isn't failing to acknowledge that, man, sometimes people have done like heinous things to us, right? It's not like a looking over that. It's not overlooking it. But the big book talks about how resentment is the greatest enemy to recovery. Yeah. Anything else? And then I'll just weave in a couple things with what you've said. Because you've forgiven little, you will love little, he says to him. Forgiveness is something that we practice our way into new feelings sometimes. Yeah. All right, I'll point out a few things. And if you want to jump in, just say, Ross, can you be quiet? I have something to say. Do it. Daria. One of the things that's happening that you see in this story is one of the things I just want to show you some things that that I see in this story that keep us from being ready, from being willing to have God like deal with our shortcomings, right? You see it at the beginning. We spend so much time practicing justification or rationalization by comparing ourselves to other people. Right? We looked at a story in the very beginning of the series where a guy was like, man, thank God I'm not like that tax collector. Thank God. I do this, I do this, I do that. And the other guy says, God have mercy on me, a sinner. And Jesus says, which one do you think went home justified? Right? We spend so much time in comparison. We do that in the Bible. Some people have read this story and they're just like, that Pharisee, he's so awful. I would never be like that. We read the whole Bible like that. We find the good guys and we're like, I'm going to be like that good guy. We find the bad guys, we're like, I'm not going to be like that bad guy. Cain murdered his brother Abel. I ain't going to be like Cain. Good thing I don't commit murder. Cain's the bad guy, Abel's the good guy. I'm going to be like Abel, right? Like David, yeah, he had the one little mess up. Yeah, but you know what? He was really a righteous dude. Nuh-uh, read the Psalms. His entire life was a war waged with evil in himself. Never quit. When you read the Bible, what you'll find out is there are no like good people category, bad people category. They're just people. That's why we have these accounts. They're human beings throughout history who existed in a world that's not as it should be, who are trying to find the Creator and trying to live for the Creator's will. And then this story says, hey, good news, the Creator became flesh to show you the way. And he ate with the people. Everybody else was labeling the bad people. Don't make the mistake, though, in this story, be like, man, I'd never be like that Pharisee. Can I show you something? Pharisee invited Jesus to eat, didn't he? That was kind of nice. This woman who is known as a sinner, he could have said, out of here, get out. He knows who she is. He lets her stay. Yeah, he's judgmental towards her. But you can stay, I guess. The Pharisee in this story shows signs of grace too. And the people out there that we are resenting have grace at work in them too. Our enemies have God's grace working in them just as we do. Maybe they haven't woken up to it yet. Maybe not. I don't know. That's one thing. We spend our time comparing to other people and it keeps us stuck. It doesn't serve us. It's a defect that serves us and then it doesn't, right? One more thing I want to point out, and then we'll get to the conclusion for the day. Yes, like this Pharisee's not been so bad, but he has missed the mark on one thing, and it's a big thing. Seems like a small thing. Hospitality. Jesus says it, you hear it, right? Notice in the story, this whole story is about your willingness to welcome Jesus. Yeah, we're dining in the Pharisee's house in this story, but Jesus says, you didn't give me water for my feet. You didn't really welcome me, did you, Simon? She, however, the sinner, was real willing to welcome me into the home of her heart. She did all these radical signs of hospitality to say, Jesus, you're welcome with me. I'm ready. I'm humble. I'm willing. Will you restore what's been going on? She shows radical signs of hospitality, and here's the good news. If you are hospitable to Jesus, he will bring jubilee to your house. He will. It's just going to happen. Is your life going to get easier? I did not say that. You heard it from Courtney. She had like an out-of-body experience where she encountered God, and she said it got harder. Uh-oh. Darn. If I only met Jesus, my life would be better. I think your life might get harder and better, right? Especially if you practice that rigorous honesty. It's like we talked about Zacchaeus last week. He comes down from the tree to Jesus and he's like, hey, if I've cheated anybody, if I've stolen anyone, I think Jesus said, hey, let's go talk. And they went inside his house and he said, hey, Zacchaeus, I got something to tell you. You said if. Can we talk about if? One of your defects, Zacchaeus, is talking in half-truths. Self-justification. You cheated people. You stole from them. So what you going to do? This woman is entirely ready to have Jesus like show up in the home of her heart and do something. And so what we're going to end today is there are two debtors in that story, right? You remember the story of the lender? Let's see how well you're paying attention. There were two debtors. How much did they owe? John, how much did they owe? Woo! John ate his Wheaties this morning. There were two debtors. One owed 500 days' wages. The other one owed 50. Do you hear the good news? In Jesus' story, the lender forgave both. He's saying to Simon like, hey man, I'm here too. I'm here for you too. I'm here for you all the same. Ball's in your court. He forgives the 500 as well. What Jesus is practicing is what he announced in Luke 4. This is what I leave you with, the good news today. In Luke 4, when Jesus started his ministry, he announced he came to practice Jubilee. Say Jubilee. Man, we talked about that. I remember earlier in the pandemic, we were doing live from Johnson's Barbecue. I remember that day we talked about Jubilee. Jubilee is what Jesus brings into your house if you welcome him. If you talk in half-truths, if you try to like dance with Jesus and the devil a little bit, the Jubilee will be if you welcome him and say, come into this house, bring your restoration. Jubilee is what comes. Jesus says in Luke 4, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I'm anointed to preach good news to the poor. Recovery of sight to the blind, release to the captives, and to let the oppressed go free. And here it comes. You ready? To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. You just heard Jubilee, right? Anybody confused? Let's hear it, Mo. Oh boy. That right there is rigorous honesty. That's rigorous honesty right there. If you want to know what it sounds like, that's it. And Jubilee will come into that house. I believe. I pray for that. I hope for that. Thank you for whoever shared that. Thank you so much. Jubilee. Here's what the year of the Lord's favor comes from the Old Testament. I leave you with this today. It's an Old Testament concept where God instructed the Israelites every so many years to forgive everyone their debts. Forgive them all. It's like you get forgiveness for your debts, you get forgiveness for your debts, and you get forgiveness for your debts. And every 49 years, 7 times 7, you not only forgave debts, you gave property back. It was a whole reset of the community, a whole restoration of the community. Why? So that everybody was leveled out. There wasn't a person who owed 500 and a person who owed 50. The slate was wiped clean. And all of us who are human beings are like, that's not fair. Jesus didn't come to serve your notion of fairness. He came to spread throughout the earth his notion of fairness and equity and reconciliation. And if you welcome him into your home, to your heart, to your soul, if you can grow in this discipline of entire readiness, a humble asking of God to remove your shortcomings, he will bring this heavenly notion of Jubilee into your heart, and you will become a witness of it. That's a good life to live, and it's work that lasts. Anybody got any closing comments? That's mine. I'm done. I guess that's it for today. Hey, thanks for being with us. Thanks to you online for being with us today. Thanks to Courtney. Let's give Courtney another round of applause. She's not a hero. She's just a witness. I'm not a hero. No heroes in here. We're just ordinary people trying to find this Jesus, right? Ordinary people trying to follow the Lord. So I don't really have much in the way of updates. One thing is that this church exists to make a lasting impact in our community. The only way we do that is through people's giving. We try to be so careful and responsible with every dollar we get. Every dollar. Don't give out of gratitude or out of guilt. Give out of gratitude. Yeah, do give out of gratitude. Out of thanks for what you have. If it's $1, great. If it's 10, great. 100, whatever the Lord leads you to give, we give you thanks for that. You can give in the basket at the back or online at heavenearthchurch.org. We exist through your giving, and we exist to make a lasting impact. Go with this blessing. Go with this dream of God the Father to bring Jubilee once and for all to this earth. And go with the love of Jesus by which this Jubilee is going to happen. And with the power of the Spirit that will help you to carry the Jubilee in your heart and be a witness in the places where you live, work, learn, and play. Have a great week. See you next week. Hey, as you're exiting, feel free to get coffee, donuts, whatever. We're just going to sing this chorus, but feel free to talk to people, connect with folks. Online, you can stick around and hear this if you'd like. Where did I set my chords?
You moved our things around. Here, you want this one?
Just give me the sheets. All right.
So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crushing and in the pressing, you are making new wine. And in the soil I now surrender. You are breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hands. Lord, I trust you, I don't need to understand. Make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh God, I came here with nothing. All you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause in the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender. You are breaking new ground. You are breaking new ground. Woo! So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Yes, God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom. Kingdom is here. I laid out my old flames to carry your new fire today. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me.